Welcome into the Extra Point. Jim Funderburg along with Grant Redhead and Coach. Boy, I'll tell you what, this has been a tough season. How are you holding in right now, I guess, is the question I've got for you.
Well, we're hanging in, and personally, I haven't regretted the decision to come to Bryan at all. Mm-hmm. This is a good place to be, and the program will change. We are going through growing pains right now with a young team and an inexperienced team, and it shows because we do some things right at times, and then other times, after we've been successful with the play, we'll come back and run it 2-3 plays later, and we just won't give that same effort and won't take our steps, and then we get a negative game. So that's youth, that's inexperience. Yeah, we're 7 games in, but a lot of these guys is their first fall playing, and they hadn't been developed as much as I would have liked in the past. So we're developing them now, and we're taking our lumps, but we bring almost everybody back. So there's some positives, and the kids are still working, and I told them, I said, we're still working and we're still calling the plays, and you guys are still going to have to run them, and the game's not going to get any shorter. Nobody feels sorry for you, so let's go.
No doubt about that. Well, I like that about you, because that's all you got. I mean, what else do you have left for this season? You're going to find out the guys who really want to play football in Bryan, Ohio for you next year, because a bunch of them are coming back. Yeah. So if you're going to pack it up right now and call it a year, then how are you going to start out next year? The same old spot. So you're going to look for the guys that are really going to be your football team next year.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to do a lot more things in the off season. We're going to start 6 a.m. workouts for our dual sport athletes. Not to punish them, but to give them the opportunity to lift. Then they can recover all day, and then they can go to their basketball. And in the spring, they can go to baseball, and they're recovered from the lift, and they're still getting stronger. So we're strong enough to compete next year. I don't mind getting up early when it's for a good cause, and
sure.
We're going to have our breakfast club and work at getting stronger.
I don't think anybody, if they think coaching is different than any other job, it's still the same kind of job. If you go to a new job, you're number one, you take over a business, truck line, telephone, selling cable ads, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of growing pains in that first year. Yes. You got to get your guys online, you got to make sure everything works. And it's the same thing, whether it's me, whether it's you doing something like this. And I've always felt this was going to be a tough year for you, just getting in here and getting in the middle of everything,
Yeah, being here 3.5, 4 months, the kids they've bought in, they're playing hard, it's just we are inexperienced. We've got some areas that we need to develop better on our team, and like I said, it's gonna change. When I started the program in Florida, it was a rough year the first year. Yeah. But, we got in there and we worked in the off season, and we made a difference, and we went from 1-9 to 7-3. Yeah. This team can make a dramatic comeback, and we're still fighting to get these last 3 wins. I told them, I said, we're not going to take the collar. We're not going to take that 0-10. We got to fight for that. And we can be 3-7. We can play the role of spoiler right now, because the 3 teams we have are still in the playoff mix a little bit in their respective divisions. So we could be the spoiler. And, we need to sit there and do the best we can and get as good as we can and build off of it.
I think nothing goes to your point like the combination of the 2 games we've just gone through. You go to Wauseon, one of the toughest places to go in the world. You play a tough Wauseon team. Look what they did last Friday night. They bounced right back, okay? Played a decent game, held those guys in check, played them right down to the last second. Then you come into the next week with an Archibald team that's no better or worse than that Wauseon team, because I really do think there's a lot of parity this year.
Yeah.
Okay? And all of a sudden, man, that second quarter just blows up on you and goes away. That's inexperience, and that's youth, and there were drop passes and missed blocks and a penalty over here and a penalty over there. And as young as what you guys are, a bad quarter like that, you can't get it back from something like that with a young team.
Yeah, and with a young team, we don't have that dynamic player that we can get the ball to and get back in it.
Yeah.
When we're 3rd and a mile, it's tough to get back to the sticks. And if I get close enough, I'd fake punt a lot. Whatever I can get close enough that I know I can get it. The biggest thing is, we took ourselves out of a lot of good opportunities and situations with holding penalties.
Yeah.
4 personal fouls, and the unsportsmanlike you know, I went over, I said, guys, we can't revert back to that. If you're frustrated, you need to work harder. You need to focus instead of making bonehead plays, because then that just hurts us. You know, we had 2 on the same drive, and you know, it just kept their drive alive.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's frustrated, you know, but we still have to do it right. It doesn't mean you can just go out and freelance and, you know, I'm just going to take a shot on this guy. No, we still got to play the right way.
Yeah, you really do. Well, when you take a look at the guys, I think you've got a senior core that has had a tough senior year. It's always tough for seniors when you swap coaches like this, and then you got an inexperienced in below, and they've come out of a program where when they were freshmen, this was a really running and going program. But I think they've all hung in there pretty well too for a senior class too.
Yeah, you know, and the biggest thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to develop the kids at every level. You know, I spend time down with our freshman JV players to sit there and teach them the blocking schemes when they split off. You know, I don't have a defensive position, so my coaches run the defensive part of practice. I go down with the younger group and I get them better, and I correct things with them and help out my young coaches that are down there. So we're developing those kids so we don't get into a spot where we don't have those guys ready to play when they come up. You know, that's the part of a program. We can have good teams, but we have to have a good program where all levels are getting the attention and getting developed.
Yeah. Well, it's more than a one-year project, that's for sure. You know, it takes a few years to have it all roll out and get it where you want to. And the good news is, I think as your guys mature, get a little stronger, as you're saying, get worked into the system, I think you're working in a pretty good direction. I think,
you know,
right
and it comes down, you know, players in the right position, you know, and you know, we've got some good classes coming up. You know, our freshman class has got some really good athletes, and some of them are playing.
Yeah,
2 are going to start on Friday night, 2 of the freshmen, because they've shown that they're the best at their position. And, you know, I believe in that, in the competition. And then we've got, you know, a great 8th grade class coming up. So it's going to get better, you know, and what we need to do is just say, okay, we're going to develop and we're going to get better. And once we have that program developed, then it's going to be every year. We're not going to get this huge drop off.
Right. One last thing before we put this one to bed, this ball game to bed. It looked like the idea was to come out. You had everything compacted a little bit. You had everybody alone. You know, looks like it was going to be pound them and run them all night long. And then Damon goes down with a bit of an injury. Hopefully it's not all that serious. Did that change everything all of a sudden in everybody's mind? The game plan go down the drain, or was?
Well, it didn't go down the drain, but I think the kids, they lost one of their better players and one of their leaders on the field, and it affected them mentally in that second quarter. You know, and you just got to keep believing and running the thing. We wanted to bring them in because that took away their blitzes and it put our size to the advantage. And, you know, that's the type of things we scheme to. And, you know, later on, we just had to get in the spread and had to start throwing to try and get a chance to come back like we had the week before. You know, and give ourselves the opportunity. So at that point, when we got behind by 17, we had to start throwing the ball nonstop to try and gain ground.
So it kind of took you out of the game plan at that point just a little bit too.
We didn't have time.
The one thing I was, you know, before I'd heard an awful lot last week about the size of this team, but boy, that was a quick bunch. They got to a hole pretty fast, didn't they, huh?
Yep. They you know, they played hard. You know, they played as hard as we did the week before. And we have to, you know, be consistent and play that hard all the time. And, you know, the practice was a great week of practice, and that's why, you know, and we did well in the beginning, and then we had some adversity and we let it affect us too much. And that's the thing with a young team it can do. And, you know, like I said, we're still working and working just as hard as if we were 7-0.
Fantastic. We're going to take a timeout right here on the Extra Point, brought to you by Tompkinson BMW in Fort Wayne, and we'll come back and talk about the Delta game right after this. Coach, let's hit on one thing about the league here real fast, because I am almost of the opinion that that's kind of the story of our league this year. I mean, you see a team plays really well one week and falls down on its face the next week and plays really good for a week or two. This entire league seems like it's a little bit young, a little bit inexperienced, okay, going through some growing pains. And so anybody in Bryan that thinks they're having frustrations at this point in time, for my money, watching this, I mean, go around the league. Nobody in the NWAL this year, other than Swanton, are probably going anywhere because we're all going through the same process.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Archbold played Wauseon 14-7 the week before we played them.
Yeah.
You know, and they played them tough, and we played them tough, and you know, a lot of the teams that we played are, you know, do have quite a bit more seniors playing than we do.
Right.
You know, so they're going to graduate a lot, and we're going to bring a lot back. You know, so we're going to be at an advantage. But you know, it has been a roller coaster for a lot of teams. You know, when Archbold went and beat PH,
Yeah.
you know, there's some different things that are happening. You're going, wow, you know, that's a little surprising. So, you know, it's we have to remember these are kids. They're
They are
14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and you know, they're going to give us everything they have, but they're going to make mistakes, and you know, we just got to coach and correct the mistakes and get them believing and playing.
You know, that's one thing that I want to address too. When you get to this point in the season, you get fans that are a little frustrated. You start to hear some chirping out of the stands and everything. I've got an 84-year-old mother who goes to most all the football games she can, and when she hears that in the stands, she's the first one that runs over and says, "Don't you know these are 14 and 15-year-old kids and they haven't stopped trying. They're still working real hard out there." And I've always been appreciative of that out of her.
Yes.
Because that's what they are. You know, we try to make them to be pro athletes and gods, but they're not. They're 14, 15-year-old kids under a lot of pressure, trying to learn, trying to work real hard. And from everything I've seen Monday through Thursday out here, these guys haven't given up on the practice field. They're just learning still.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's still, we're getting our, you know, some kids are gotten tremendously better since the start of the season. That's all we can ask them. You know, I'm not moving back to Florida. I know I heard that a couple of times. Go back to Florida. I'm not going anywhere.
Attaboy.
You know, I mean, I'm here to stay, and you know, it's going to turn. It's going to change because I've done it before, and I know the formula and how we need to do it.
Yeah.
And with kids that'll work hard, we can change that. You know, the coaches are still working, the kids are working. You know, we can get there. You know, it's just, you know, we're doing the best we can, and you know, we want to do better for our town and our families and our team, and that's the thing. That's our motivation right now, is for the pride and for Bryan, and you know, they're giving all they got.
Yeah.
And you know, when we didn't play very well, and I told them, I said, this is on us, and we need to own it. You know, and we need to get better and play better. But you know, at the end of the day, it's a game.
Yeah,
you know,
really
and they play it because it's supposed to be fun, and I want them to have fun. You know, it's serious, but we want to have fun.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Homecoming, you got Delta coming to town. First of all, homecoming, distractions from the homecoming process. Fun, you kind of got fall all of a sudden. This isn't your Florida homecoming by any stretch of the imagination.
Different.
Yeah. But does it distract anything throughout the week, Coach?
Not much. You know, the biggest thing is, you know, when we come to practice, it's work time, and as long as we get the work done out here, you know, we'll be okay. There's a few, you know, distractions on Friday night with kids being out on court and things like that, but you know, we can manage that, and you know, we just get the kids the adjustments we make at halftime when they come in for a few minutes, and we can make it work.
Yep.
You know, this is my, I don't know, 28th homecoming.
Yeah,
so I can make it work.
No rookie doing that.
All right.
Delta's coming to town. What's it going to take to make this thing happen this week?
Well, penalties and turnovers. Those are the two things we can't do. You know, we progressed in our offense a little more, so we've got some good things coming out, and hopefully we can run them. You know, biggest thing is we can't have personal fouls and we can't have holdings.
Yeah.
You know, those two things killed us on Friday night and took us out of every single good position we could have been in. We had a huge drive that we would have been down on the 5, and we had a holding penalty.
Yeah.
You know, on a long run, we just have to play smart heads-up football. You know, and keep in it. And you know, as long as we can keep in it, we can win it. You know, but the big thing is we just can't lose our heads.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next week. That's going to do it for Extra Point this week, brought to you by Tompkins and BMW. If it's Friday night, you've got football on BryanSports.com.